listening to Tapped In, Buncombe County's half hour to empower on WRES 100.7 FM in Asheville. Listen up and get tapped into local important resources, information, and topics. Learn more about the topics of today's show at buncombecounty.org. Okay, it's time to get tapped in.
Hello, 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 and greetings to all the listeners that can hear my voice. This is Tapped In, and I'm one of your hosts, Leonard Jones, and unfortunately, Zakia Bell Rogers is out doing some self-care for herself, so we send her all good vibe and energy this afternoon. And so, as I said, me and Zakia, we come from the Communications and Public Engagement Department of Buncombe County. And so before we get started with today's show, we just want to remind the listeners out there, we are 90 days away from an election. So if you're hearing this recording, we're either 90 days or 90 days less closer to an election. So one thing we want to remind our listeners out there is that everyone should, if you're able to, participate in this election process. And so if you need more information around election, please go to www.buncombecounty.org and go on election services. You can verify about your registration, see where your polling places are, and how you can either become a poll worker, participate, and just make sure that your right to vote is all set up before the election day. We also got a I Voted sticker contest going on right now. So if you go on the engagebuncombe.org page, you also can vote to see those famous I Voted stickers. We had a lot of our younger residents here in Buncombe County draft some sticker ideas. So go out there and vote, and that's on the engagebuncombe.org. And as I say again, this is an election day and we are 90 days away, and there's a lot of work to get done. So get out there and vote, and make sure you're ready to vote, invite someone to vote, and bring more and everyone that you know to vote. So to get into today's show, joining us today are two guests from the community partner MANNA FoodBank, Lucy Phillips, the agency relationship manager here in Buncombe County, and Bethany Vance, community market supervisor. They are here to share the great work that's happening at MANNA and also the partnership with Buncombe County's community engagement markets that we have here in Buncombe County. Welcome, Lucy and Bethany.
Thanks for having us, Leonard.
Cool. So for our listeners out there today, just tell us a little bit about yourself and the organization of MANNA.
I'll go ahead and start. I've been at MANNA for a little over 2 years, and my role is working with all of the partners in Buncombe County that are distributing food. So we have about 100 partners in Buncombe County that are distributing MANNA food every day. And those partnerships could be markets, like what we work with the county on. They can be meal sites. They can be residential facilities that are distributing MANNA food to the folks that are living there. So I'm just thankful that I get to work with such incredible people across the county, all these organizations doing the work.
Cool.
Yeah, and then I'm Bethany, our community market supervisor. So we normally think of MANNA as just working through partner agencies who provide food to our neighbors all throughout Western North Carolina, but we also put some markets on ourselves where we are able to fill some gaps where we maybe don't have some existing partner agencies or other resources. So we go out into those communities and make sure that those folks are able to access healthy, nutritious foods.
Cool. And so one of the things, not bearing the lead, is that a lot of the food that you provide out to the community is free. So MANNA's out there providing free food, especially for all residents of the area. Can you just explain some of the programs and initiatives that MANNA currently got going on?
Yeah, so we always think of MANNA FoodBank as just distributing food, which is definitely a huge part of what we do. But we also have some other programs at MANNA that you may not be as familiar with. So one of our standout programs at MANNA is our Food Helpline, which plays a crucial role in supporting individuals and families in Western North Carolina who are struggling to afford groceries, and navigating the complexities of the SNAP application, or Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. You probably most commonly hear it referred to as food stamps. It can be overwhelming. It's a really intense process. And so our Food Helpline is here to help alleviate that stress. We can do that by helping folks with their SNAP applications or their recertification. So we have staff members who are happy to walk you through the entire process. We can also give you referrals to other food pantries, markets, meal sites like Lucy was talking about. And we can also help find other resources. So if you're struggling with housing or employment, like we're happy to help point you in any direction that you need help with. So our food line is a very important service that we offer. But we also offer some youth-focused food distribution programs like our MANNA Packs and Summer Packs. We also run a lot of school pantries. We want to ensure our kids in Western North Carolina have the food they need to grow and learn. So that's a really important program of ours as well. And then we also have our Nutrition Works initiative, which addresses the intersection of hunger and health by promoting access to nutritious foods. So yeah, those are some of the other things that MANNA's working on behind the scenes.
Oh, that was a lot of great information. So I just got a few follow-up questions. Yeah. So you said a food helpline. What is that number?
So, oh my goodness, off the top of my head, let's see, it's 1-800, oh goodness, you know what? I forgot it. I used to have this memorized. For a year I had this memorized. But I'm telling you, if you go on our website, it's going to be just plastered all over the website.
And what's that web address?
Yeah, so it's MANNAFoodBank.org, and this is where you can find information about everything I'm talking about today. So I definitely recommend giving our website a glance if you're interested in that or anything we talk about.
Okay, so for the listeners out there, please go out to you said manna.org?
Yes.
Okay, manna.org, and find out about the food helpline to access many of those resources. I also heard you mention around youth. Can you explain what the MANNA Packs are?
Yeah, so MANNA Packs are an awesome program that we've been doing for quite a while now, where we very discreetly place food in the backpacks of kids who may be facing some food insecurity, so that we can make sure that they have some snacks, even some meals that they can prepare themselves at home if necessary, because we know that, you know, hunger, if you're hungry, you can't learn. Yes. So we want to make sure that our students are having access to plenty of food so that they're not having to face that struggle.
Cool, because I know just from my own personal experience, with my church, we had volunteered, and I know it was a way that we were just making these kind of just very tangible things that little kids, and I heard they kind of slip them in the kids' backpack, so that discreet way of other kids not being aware, but the kid know when they go home that they have some resources and food in their backpack. So I just know from my own volunteer experience a little bit more about those MANNA Packs. What about you, Lucy?
I was going to say MANNA Packs are awesome. We have partners that kind of overlap with our traditional food pantries and those MANNA Pack partners. A good example of that is that we work with the Buncombe County Schools Family Resource Center. So the school system right there has a family resource center that folks can access if those families have students enrolled in Buncombe County schools. And so they're a good example of a MANNA Pack partner, where not only do they have a pantry that's available for those families to access those pantry staples, but then they also will give students those packs to take home over the weekends and also during the summer. And another a good example is Big Ivy. They do a lot of great programs, but they are both a CEM site for the community engagement markets with the county. They are also a youth programs partner, so they also give out MANNA Packs.
Nice, that's good to hear. So we talked about MANNA FoodBank. Where is MANNA located here in Buncombe County?
Yeah, MANNA is over on Swannanoa River Road, and we're across from the municipal golf course. And we've been at that facility for a very long time. We have 2 buildings, 2 warehouses, and we have a volunteer center there. And we really rely on folks coming in to MANNA every day to volunteer. So shout out to all of our volunteers. They do an incredible job.
Yeah, so if we have some listeners out there today, how do they go about it if they want to volunteer for MANNA?
That's a great question. If you go to our website, like Bethany mentioned, MANNAFoodBank.org, there's a giant button that says volunteer.
Right up top.
Can't miss it.
We have some big buttons. One says find food. That's the most important button. And then we also have a volunteer button. And you can kind of look through that scheduling system to figure out if there's a shift or a time that works for you. But what's great at MANNA is we have several different of these programs that Bethany's talking about that utilize volunteers. So most commonly people come in to the volunteer center and they will sort and pack food. But we also have other opportunities on the helpline, as well as with Bethany's community markets team. The folks that are driving those trucks to bring the food out to the community engagement markets, those are volunteers.
Those volunteers, that's great to hear. So is there any restrictions, or what's the eligibility rules to be a volunteer with MANNA?
So I think there is an age requirement, and if you are under that age, we just ask that parents are there, or there's a sign-off sheet. But we have groups of kindergartners coming in, and we will always find activities that are appropriate for age and for ability.
That's good to hear. Because just like I was at reference earlier, I did it with my church youth group, so and had my sons involved. So we can have kids participate in this process, and it just also just kind of let people know that we all in this one community together and how we can help each other. So if listeners out there looking for volunteer opportunities, it's great to look up opportunities, especially helping people that's facing some food insecurity. What are some of your organizations partners in the community? I know you partner with Buncombe County with our community engagement market, but what other partnerships that we have in the county?
Well, the food bank has a lot of different types of partners. Okay. I'm going to zoom out for a second because we have our donors. We also have direct retail partners. So a fun fact is that we, through Feeding America, which is the nonprofit that is the group of the food banks across the country, they have agreements, and we have agreements with direct retail partners in the county. So a lot of the grocery stores, most of the grocery stores that you all go to, we have partnerships with them where we have our partner agencies. Again, those are our brick and mortar pantries, our meal sites. We connect them directly with one of the retail stores, and they go and pick up. So Trader Joe's, for example, it's a hot ticket. The stuff that they donate is fantastic. So we'll have partner agencies that will go every day, sometimes twice a day actually, for Trader Joe's, to pick up food that they have culled through, even flowers sometimes. And then those go out directly to the markets. So that's a great type of partnership that we have. But I would say the vast majority of our food goes out through our partner agencies, which is the network. So we cover 16 counties in the Puyallup boundary.
Wow.
So in Buncombe County, we have around 100, but we have 250 plus across the 16 counties. And so those partners are the ones that are getting the food from the food bank, and they are distributing it, and they are the ones that are doing the work. I also want to highlight too, like the community engagement markets and the connectors and the hard work that they do. So many of our partners rely on volunteers. Very few of our partners actually have paid staff. So it is a lot of community members coming together to form these partnerships to really get the food out to the neighbors who need it.
Cool. And so I know we referenced that Buncombe County have our community engagement markets. So just kind of giving some highlight on the community engagement markets is that Buncombe County, we have engagement markets that happen in 14 different locations that happen throughout each month at set times during the week. And so we're in all four corners of the county. We're up in Big Ivy and Barnersville. We also in West Asheville, out there in Candler. We're also in several of our public housing communities here within the city of Asheville, and we also partner with United Way around some middle school markets. So we're at Asheville Middle School, Irwin Middle School, Inca, and it's just several. We're also out in Fairview, so we're out there in Fairview Public Library in Southern County. Through our community engagements, we try to address food insecurity, but we also try to bring resources out there. So we have many community-based organizations that come out. As I mentioned earlier, we find ourselves in election season, so we may have election services present at some of our markets to just engage with community, but we also have many Medicaid and Medicare providers out there sharing their information, as well as getting people ready for I just went blank, but get many people ready for like information around resources that the county offer. So we strongly encourage people, if you want to find out more about Buncombe County's community engagement markets and where one is close to you or when it's happening each week of the month. You can always go to www.buncombecounty.org and go to our community engagement site, and you can find the list of all 14 markets and where they are happening throughout the week. You just sign in, and as long as you in the area sign in, you can receive those resources. So no one is turned away, and everyone is invited within any community to receive those resources from Buncombe County. And we just want to give big thanks out to our partners in that. Of course, it's MANNA FoodBank that we're speaking to today. But we also have partners with BIPA. We also have partnership BIPA, Big Bounty and Soul, ABCCM, Spark Foundation, and YWCA and United Way are our partners around our community engagement market. So we send a big shout out to them as well on helping bringing these resources to our community, keeping us fed within our community and keeping them informed. So going back to the discussion, where are some other markets? I know I mentioned 14 here with the community engagement markets, but you also mentioned that MANNA serves out all 18 counties in Western North Carolina. Where else, besides our community engagement markets here at Buncombe County, where else does MANNA have markets?
Yeah, so we have MANNA Community Markets, which is Bethany's team. So I'm going to pass it off to Bethany and let her talk a little bit more about those markets.
Yeah, so we have our community markets that we put on all throughout Western North Carolina.
Okay.
So, I mean, we have them as far as Nantahala, Murphy, I mean, those western corners of North Carolina. Wow. MANNA's reaching out to those communities and ensuring that they have access to, especially fresh produce, but I mean, anything that we can get our hands on. So those markets happen once monthly, and we have all of those available, all the information available as far as hours and location. That's also on our website. Okay. But there's at least once a month we have one of those kind of pop-up style markets in almost each of our western counties, not quite all of them, but almost all of them. And yeah, I definitely encourage folks to go out to those. We ask no questions except for how many people are in your household, and then you're welcome to come and grab whatever you need. So, and we let people, it's very much set up like a farmer's market or like a grocery store. You pick what you want. So we definitely encourage folks to come out.
Cool. So yes, and we know that a lot of people are talking about how expensive food is and inflation and things, but there are resources out in our community. So that's why we're letting you know where you can go. And as we say, there's no restrictions, just come out and receive some of these resources that's available. So I think, Lucy, you was mentioning to me about some of programs and initiative with some of our farmers. Can you share with the listeners more about that?
Absolutely. This is something that is pretty new to MANNA as far as trying to make sure that we are both meeting the need by getting enough produce in, and that involves working with our distributors and our partners, bringing produce in from all over the country. But we have had a focus, and we have an incredible food sourcing team, I should say. So we have 3 folks on our food sourcing team who are responsible for getting all of the food in the different channels, and there are a lot of different ways that food comes into the food bank. But there's been a lot of focus recently on how we can not just have local food and, from the South, but how we can have hyper local food, like Western North Carolina food, even county level food, right? Wow. And how we can take food that is grown here, connect it to neighbors who need it, support those farms. So one thing I've been working on since I started working with the CMs is trying to connect some of our community engagement markets with some farms that are already producing and donating food. So you and I worked together to create the first Fairview Market. I guess it would have been around September or October now of 2022.
I think October last year we started at the public library out there.
And so we have a great partnership with Root Cause Farm there. They're almost across the street, and they graciously donate food to the market. And so we are trying now to come along with some of those farms. Also, Southside is another great example. They provide produce to the Grant Center. Nice. So how can we work with those farms to support them and learn about new farms? I think there's a lot going on in the county, and it just feels like a pivotal moment, and I'm excited that MANNA is hopefully going to be part of it as much as we can be.
That's good to hear. I'm also just thinking around, I think of my own generation. I was born in 1980, and I think, you think of farming. I know my dad, my grandma, they did much more than what a lot of people do today. And it seems like it's a new focus, especially during COVID. I started a COVID garden at my house. So the question becomes, how do we get more exposure, or what do you do with the vegetables? They look delicious and bright and colorful, but sometimes it's like, I don't know what to do with this eggplant. I don't know what to do with this zucchini. I don't know this funny looking broccolini. What do you do? What do you do with that, and how do you introduce that into just your normal diet? So is there like recipes and stuff that MANNA has that's available to the people that's coming out, getting new exposure to some of these great delicious vegetables at these markets?
Yeah, we do have a pretty extensive recipe booklet online.
Okay.
We also try to, at some markets, have printed out recipes. And we provide those also to our partners, who are the ones doing also the food distributions themselves. do an incredible job of trying to work through those same questions and how to educate. We even have some partners that are doing cooking demonstrations with those same foods, or creating menus for the week, so that if you come in and you're like, okay, well, there are these 5 foods that are available to me, how do I put them together?
Okay.
How do I cook them and make a cohesive meal for my family with the things that are available that week? So our partners are doing the work, and we also try to offer, like she was saying, like Bethany was saying, we do have a Nutrition Works team, and we provide a lot of training opportunities for our partners to learn more about how they can connect their neighbors with resources.
That's very good. So you said that recipe book is available online on the MANNA site.
It's on the MANNA website, yeah.
Okay, I might have to check that out. I know a lot of people talk about like spaghetti squash. I haven't tried it before.
There's a whole page that just talks about the different types of squash.
Yeah.
It's like a squash encyclopedia.
I'm not a big squash eater. I know I'm from the South, but it's like, I don't know. I don't know about this. I'm a cucumber, tomato, green pepper type of guy. And so those are the 3 things I have in my garden, because I know I eat them all the time. But expanding my palate would be something I really should do. So we may have touched on this before. So beyond food, what are some other resources that MANNA provides to the community here?
Yeah, so again, I think our helpline is one of the most important resources that MANNA has to offer, because truly, I mean, that helpline can help you with any resource that you're looking for. So I would definitely promote our helpline to the community. As far as other resources that we provide, I mean, food is obviously our main thing, but I think our community engagement markets are actually a great example of how we really focus on what we call wraparound services as well. So when folks are coming out to food distributions or food pantries, not only are they able to get food, but maybe they're able to fill out a SNAP application. Maybe they're able to get an updated vaccine. Like we have a lot of vaccine clinics at our markets as well. So I mean, we're trying to provide food, yes, but what else might someone need? What else? How can we make this easy for folks so that when they're coming here, it's not just for food, they're also checking off a lot of other boxes that they need as well. So that's something that we were focusing on strongly with our community markets, but also with a lot of our partners as well. So that's an initiative that MANNA's definitely been working on, is more than food. Because we know people need food, but if you need food, you probably need some other stuff too. So trying to address some of those issues.
So that's great to hear. I know just being the coordinator on the county side with the community engagement markets that we host, I know MANNA has been kind of very receptive in kind of just responding to our community. We noticed that some of our community engagement markets that we noticed, a lot of our unhoused neighbors were showing up at those markets. So Lucy, can you explain just kind of around our ready-to-eat bags and how MANNA helped us address that issue that we was facing?
Yeah, I actually want to pass this to Bethany, because she's the one who is manually putting those on the order. So this is her thing.
Unfortunately, we've been low on them recently, but they're a thing that we really strive to have, or what we call ready-to-eat bags. So a lot of our food distributions are giving out, like whole spaghetti squash or like a big bag of flour. But what is an unhoused person going to do with that if they don't have access to a kitchen? So we try to have food that's just ready to eat, just like it says. So you can just pop open a can of tuna, and you can just, we have like shelf-stable yogurt and things like that that are just really helpful for the unhoused community who don't have access to cooking utensils or don't have food storage even. So we try to focus on having foods available for people who might not have a kitchen. And
that was great. I mean, just as I mentioned, being the coordinator, that was just very helpful to have, because it was very responsive to the neighbors when people were getting a whole box and they couldn't utilize all the box. So it helped cut down on waste, but it also helped just to serve those within our community at their time of need. So we greatly appreciate just that effort and that innovation of creating a response to that issue. So as we wrap up here, one of my things is, what can we expect in the future from MANNA?
I think we could both probably answer this. So MANNA is tasked with 2 big jobs. One is to address the need right now in the moment, which is high, very, very high. We last year averaged serving 48,000 meals a day in our communities. 48,000 meals a day. So that's a lot to meet the need right now. But you can't, I have a partner agency who says you can't eat a car. You can't eat the things that you need in life. Like, there are things that are going to be down the stream that we need to work on too, because you inevitably, what is broken and the systems that are broken can't just be fixed with food. Food will not solve the issue. So we're also tasked with this other bucket of work that we call Food for Tomorrow and Food for a Lifetime.
Okay.
And so what I see as the future of MANNA is really, you know, starting with these types of programs, like working with farms, looking to stabilize some of these communities, working to, you know, turn food deserts into food sovereignty. And that's big work. Our mission is to work to unite and end hunger in Western North Carolina. So like maybe down the road, long term, when we've solved food insecurity, and we'll be working at a museum and giving tours of our warehouse that used to be a food bank. But for right now, I think we are doing everything we can to kind of balance the needs of today and tomorrow.
All right. So Bethany, I know we got about 5 minutes left. What's some of the, what do you see for the future of MANNA?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely everything that Lucy said, and I think just kind of piggybacking off of that is just, it's such an uphill battle trying to address food security. And instead of just kind of, you know, providing food, which is very important, and I don't want to diminish that, but it's kind of slapping a Band-Aid on the problem at the end of the day. And we kind of have to look more at the root causes of why do we have so much hunger in Western North Carolina, or in the United States for that matter, and addressing, you know, instead of just trying to keep our head above water, how do we make sure that this isn't happening? Is it, you know, I mean, there's lots of things that are root causes of food insecurity I won't get into today, but I think we're starting to take a look at, okay, aside from food, what else do people need? What else can we be doing to address this need and to hopefully end hunger in Western North Carolina? So trying to take a look around and see what that looks like for us. I think I'm very excited to see what we do.
Yeah, and so I just want to thank y'all both for coming out and sharing with the listeners today the great work that MANNA is doing. And again, on behalf of the Buncombe County, we greatly appreciate this partnership that we have to serve the individuals in our county. As we sit here, and I can't wrap it up like Zakiya, but I'm just sitting here thinking, we always have this thing that we're one Buncombe. And so when we think about food insecurities, and we all can find ourselves when we may be down on our luck or just find ourselves needing that basic need. Food is a basic need that everyone needs every day. So as a community worker, how can you contribute? We done heard several things today around volunteering. We also looked at ways in which I know often MANNA has food drives that you can contribute. So when you sit at your own table and look at if there's excess waste, if there's something in your cabinet that's been sitting there for a while and you just haven't used it, or if you want to venture out and do something new with vegetables and bring something to expand your palate, you can go to the MANNA site and you can find resources. You can find some recipes on there to bring in some more of the local farm food. Looking for opportunities to volunteer, how you can volunteer, support MANNA in this efforts, but also just support our Buncombe County engagement opportunities where we at these different locations throughout the county. So my thing is, when you're sitting around the table, be thankful for what you have, but also see if you can do a little bit more. And if you're not being and how you can minimize some of the waste, and some of the waste that you have or something that you may not be using may be a blessing for someone else. So we just look for these opportunities. There are resources out there. As I mentioned, you can go to the manna.org site or go to buncombecounty.org and go to community engagement, and you can find where we have this free food and resources at our community engagement markets that's held at 14 different locations throughout the month. And as I mentioned, you can volunteer or you can just come and get those resources that's readily available. And so I hope everyone have a great day. And just a reminder again, we are 90 days or less to an election, so get out there and vote and take someone with you to the polls. And as we end, you have now been tapped in. Thank you for listening to Tapped In, Buncombe County's half hour to empower, here on WRES 100.7 FM in Nashville. Learn more about today's topics at buncombecounty.org. Otherwise, stay tuned for more great episodes coming up.